Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name is Bob, and this is my DM's Guide Series to Descent into Avernus. Today we're going to be talking about the Grand Cemetery. So before we get into everything today, I just want to say a few things. First off, I am so sorry for being absent for a few months. I wanted to finish this guide series quickly, but things got in the way. The last few months have been busy, to say the least. I've completed my guide series to Candlekeep Mysteries. I also completed running all of those adventures, and so I'll leave a link to that video and those series of videos in the description below. And you can check out my overall rankings video right here. But what's most important is that we're back, and I'm here to continue this guide series and finish it to the very end. Today we're going to look at the Grand Cemetery and see what the characters have in store for them there, as well as how that ties into the overall picture of the Descent into Avernus campaign. Now this video is intended for Dungeon Masters, so if you're a player, please stop watching now. I think these videos are a great resource for Dungeon Masters because you can use them sort of like a pre-reading, that way you know what's to come in the module, or you could use it to reinforce the ideas that you've already read. Alright, now without further ado, let's jump into the Grand Cemetery. There are 3 things you need to know about this cemetery before running it. First is that this is where older Ravengard, the Grand Duke of Baldur's Gate, is located. The players would have been guided here by Feria Jinx, who's hiding in the catacombs of the High Hall, and she says that Ravengard and his entourage have headed to the Grand Cemetery looking for the Helm of Torm site. This magical relic of Torm was kept beneath the cemetery chapel, and the Helm of Torm site is said to give a worthy soul the ability to commune directly with that noble god. When the characters ultimately find Ravengard, they'll find him locked in a life and death struggle with a demonic force. The second piece of information you need to know is about the cemetery chapel itself. The cemetery chapel is run by a man named Gideon Lightward. Gideon was a priest of Lathander who served Elturel and his deity proudly. Months leading up to the fall of Elturel, Zariel saw that Gideon could be an asset to her, so she sent devils to corrupt him. The devils obviously posed as angels, offering Gideon increased power, and over the course of the last few months, he has been descending into madness. Because of his loyalty to Zariel and his obsession with destroying demons, Gideon is not happy with the demon incursion coming through the ossuary. And the third piece of information is that this demon portal was opened up years ago. A wise and humble acolyte of Torm named Opalita wanted to speak directly to her god. Through decades of prayer, she created a direct link between the ossuary beneath the chapel and the celestial essence of Torm. When Elturel was drawn into Avernus, the link was corrupted, and now demons are flowing into the city. So when the characters approach the chapel for the first time, they're going to encounter quite a bit of undead. As you can imagine, it's a cemetery, so there's going to be zombies roaming around, as well as undead minotaur skeletons. Now the most obvious way to enter into the chapel would be to go through the front door. But with competent stealth checks and some careful planning, the characters could enter other ways. We'll go through each area individually, and then I'll talk at the end about what your options are for the characters. G1 is the Walk of Bravery. Carved pillars resembling heroes of Elturel's past decorate this white marble patio leading to the main chapel. This is most likely where the characters are going to enter the church if they're coming in the front door. Each pillar is hollow and houses an incorporeal undead creature. There are shadows and specters, 4 of each in total. If the characters get too close to the pillars, the creatures will emerge and fight the group. A successful DC 10 Intelligence, Arcana, or Religion check can be made to study the pillars and reveal that the pillar can be empowered with radiant energy if the name of the hero it represents is spoken aloud. Any undead creature that moves within 5 feet of an empowered statue for the first time or starts its turn there takes 1d10 radiant damage. G2 is the Chapel of Light. This was a once beautiful main area of the chapel, but now it's littered with broken furnishings and splintered chairs. Stained glass windows have all been smashed, although one remains intact. It depicts a representation of the god Torm placing a golden helm on a man kneeling before him. Inside this room there are more minotaur skeletons, so if your characters were able to bypass the ones outside, they may have to fight some inside. 4 minotaur skeletons attack as soon as the characters enter this area. One of the big problems is that the area is not that large on the map that you're given, so you're going to have to end up deciding if you're going to have these combats start to alert other areas of the cemetery, and then all those other minotaur skeletons will come to aid the ones fighting inside. That can be kind of tough depending on the size of your party, but I think that you should probably just use some common sense here. If your characters were able to bypass outside, and as long as they take care of the minotaurs within a few rounds, then perhaps they wouldn't alert anyone. The window that was mostly a hole on the floor is cracked and has been trodden on, but the scene it shows is still recognizable. Again, a DC 10 intelligence history check this time, or religion, will allow the character to recognize the scene showing Torm presenting the helm of Torm's sight to Lanish Vogel, a revered hero of Elturel's past and a dedicated paladin of Torm. The helm is no doubt the relic that Ravengard came to the chapel in search of. G3 is the Chapel of Mourning. There are smashed remnants of fine furniture and remains of stained glass windows strewn across this area. If someone says a prayer to Lathander before the damaged window, they can make a DC 10 Charisma Religion check to determine the sincerity and strength of the prayer. If they do, a glowing weapon appears before the supplicant. And if your characters are followers of Lathander, then they succeed on this automatically. Whatever weapon you decide shows up as a +2 weapon. This item takes the form of whatever weapon the character is wielding or wearing at the time, or might be useful to the supplicant in battle. Only one such weapon can be gained by the characters in this way. I would say make sure that this only happens once. Give it to the person who follows Lathander or the person that decides to pray. G4 is the vestment chamber. 3 curtained archways connect this chamber to other areas of the chapel. This is basically the stairs that lead down to the workshop area and the ossuary level. There are 2 mezzoloths that guard the stairs. Gideon Lightward is also present here if one of the undead servants warned him of the character's intrusion. Now, what's really interesting here is that Gideon basically has defeated these demons and has turned them into undead versions of themselves. These minotaurs are obviously followers of Baphomet. You can have Gideon be present here or not. It's up to you. He could be still in the ossuary coming up, or he could be in his quarters, which we'll talk about later. But if he is here, he can have a bit of interaction with the characters. Then he will get interrupted once he's explaining exactly what has happened to the church. He'll be interrupted by a giant scorpion and 5 dretches. Now, this is a very weak combat, but the characters can help Gideon to defeat these demons that are coming up from the ossuary. And this is kind of important because I think Gideon is best as an ally rather than an enemy. If Gideon and the group team up to fight the dretches and the scorpion, then you'll gain some favor with him. The book says you have to make a DC 12 Charisma, Deception, or Persuasion check to earn his trust, but I would just say that you can roleplay this out without having to make a check, especially if they helped him fight those demons. We'll come back to this point because there's some important information that Gideon can reveal to the characters, and I just want to touch on all the rest of the chapel areas first. G5 is Gideon's quarters. This small building was Gideon Lightward's living quarters when he oversaw the chapel. It does contain all of his personal items. The only real item of note here is Gideon's Testament. It's a book that was written to him in the months leading up to Elturel's fall. Any character that wants to read the book beyond a basic level of understanding must make a wisdom saving throw. If they fail, then they are cursed with a particularly intense hatred of demons. In fact, if they fail the check, they'll take 1d10 psychic damage anytime they can see a demon within 60 feet of it. The curse can be removed very simply with Remove Curse spell or something very similar. At the end of the long rest, you can attempt the saving throw again, so it's not a permanent curse. Gideon's book talks all about chastising Helm, Torm, Tyr, Lathander, and their angelic servitors. G6 is the Undead Pit. This one's kind of weird. The path around the chapel has been sundered by a deep hole in the ground, filled with a putrid purple mist. The haze filling the hole blocks any sense of how deep it might be, or what might lie within. Gideon uses this pit to create his undead servants. It's a 30-foot deep pit. Any creature that enters the mist for the first time or starts its turn there takes 1d10 necrotic damage. Climbing down the sides of the pit require a strength athletics check of DC 10. There is a chart that you can use in the book to decide what undead comes out of this pit, and I think undead can come out at any pace that you want. I think the book might suggest every hour, but either way, you can just decide if there are any being created down there at the moment if the characters are encountering it. If you want to challenge your characters, you could throw them something like a Wraith or a Wight or a Ghast. If you want to go a little bit easier, you can use skeletons or zombies. So now we get to the ossuary. Back in G4, you can see that this is where you'll meet Gideon Lightward for the first time and his Mezzoloth guards. Gideon is a bit crazed at this point. He definitely has been battling the demons in the ossuary beneath the chapel, and so he is probably looking for help or to have the characters be helpful towards him, and I think that this is a good opportunity to parlay. If the characters really want to go and toe-to-toe with Gideon, they can fight him. He's pretty decent in terms of his stat block, but he won't provide much of a fight for a party that's a full party of 5 or 6 players. Once you either defeat Gideon or parlay with him, you'll head down to the ossuary to locate older Ravengard. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there are other ways to get in. If your characters were to stealthily sneak around the building, you could enter in through a back door, here located at G3. You could also encounter the Dead Pits and Gideon's Quarters first, which would give the characters a little bit of foreshadowing as what's to come. My characters actually did this, so they went to Gideon's Quarters first, found the tome, and that gave them a bit of insight as to who Gideon is. They learned that he hates demons, and so when they encountered him in G4, then they were able to use that in their parlay. Now we head down to the ossuary level. G7 is the workshop. The stairs from area G4 curl down to an unlocked door and a workshop beyond. There are tracks here, and someone who makes a DC 15 survival check can reveal the tracks of multiple demons spread across the floor. Signs can be seen of a single group of booted humans moving down the stairs as well. This is no doubt Ravengard's entourage. G8 is the ossuary of the faithful. The walls of this chamber are lined with funerary shelves, each set with dusty humanoid bones. The holy symbols in this area once channeled the blessings of their gods, but that trace magic has been corrupted by the passage of Elturel into Avernus. If a holy symbol is touched, or if any creature, not a fiend or undead, lingers in this area for more than 1 minute, all the holy symbols unleash a pulse of necrotic power. Each character in the area must make a DC 15 con saving throw, taking 4d8 necrotic damage on a failed save, half as much on a successful one. Your characters will not want to be in this room for very long. G9 is the main ossuary. This is a huge chamber lined with funerary shelves. Along the stone walls above, 6 bare daises, creating a display of dusty humanoid bones rising from floor to ceiling. There's a Quasit in here. He actually has a name named Oferk. He's the first demon to come through the portal, and he's acting as a scout. I think it's okay to use Oferk here as kind of like a guide. I think Quasits have a little bit of charm and personality, maybe not so much as an imp, but they could definitely be reasoned with, and they'll probably be scared of a party. So you can use Oferk to tell the group what's been going on, how this has been a portal for Baphomet to send demons through. G10 is the meditation chamber. Any character with proficiency in religion would know this is an area where priests could meditate and help them endure the dark nature of their work. G11 is the Vault of Honor. This is a rubble-strewn vault that contains 5 marble statues atop daises. 4 of them are unrecognizable, as they've been badly marred by fallen rock and a cracked ceiling. The 5th is a finely carved statue of a kneeling man. This might be recognizable. This is depicting Lanesh Fogel, the one that they saw in the stained glass area of G2. If your characters inspect the statue, it will reveal that his head has been sculpted as if it were meant to wear a separate helm, but no such helm is present. You can also follow the tracks again with a DC 15 Wisdom Survival check and find that more demons are passing through this area. G12 is the Vault of Ascendance. A shallow meditation pool fills this room. The pool is littered with mutilated bodies of humans wearing the uniforms of Baldur's Gate and Elturel. The pool is pretty gross too. Not only is it covered with bodies and probably blood, there's patches of black ichor where demons have fallen, and you can see the pool roils with shadow. The east wall of this area is also a roiling field of abyssal energy, marking the portal where Baphomet used to enter into the tomb. But what's most obvious is you will find older Ravengard here. Older Ravengard found the Helm of Tormsight in G11 and donned it. The helm has given him visions, however, it has established a connection with Torm, and this disturbance cannot be broken easily. The helm also can't be removed, and he is locked in a mental battle within this demiplane. You see, as he was trying to commune with Torm, Baphomet interceded. Ravengard is stunned until the helm is removed. The helm can't be removed while he's alive, at least not yet. When the characters are trying to help Ravengard, they'll be attacked by 3 wild-eyed minotaurs that come through the portal. They charge into battle with the characters, but avoid Ravengard because of his demonic presence that they feel within him. A DC 15 Intelligence, Arcana, or Religion check will also reveal that the psychic struggle taking place within Ravengard's mind is between some divine higher power and a terrible demonic entity. When my characters ran this, I had anyone that tried to take the helm off of Ravengard actually get sucked into that mental state with him and see the combat that was ensuing. They were able to see Torm on one side, Baphomet on the other. I described the demon lord of the Minotaurs as well as the god Torm and how their armies were meeting on a big battlefield. And I had Ravengard kind of at the center fighting off demon enemies. The character that did this, that touched the helm, ended up seeing what Ravengard saw and was able to chat with him for a brief moment while the battle was raging all around them in the ossuary. I think this was cool because that person got to meet Ravengard, even if it was just so briefly. They also saw that there's so much more at stake here than just what's going on to Elturel, that these demon lords and devils are really a threat to the material plane. Once the characters kill all the Minotaurs and get Ravengard to safety, they can head back to the High Hall, where Feria can perform a ritual to remove the helmet. If they made friends with Gideon early on, he can prove to be a very helpful ally by allowing them free passage back to the High Hall. If a character were to put on the helm after Ravengard removes it, then they would see the same thing. They would see those armies on the battlefield and Baphomet and Torm in an eternal struggle. They would not be able to remove the helm until they received the Bless spell. When Ravengard is finally free from the helm and able to talk to the group, he will tell them about his visions and provide the information they need to trigger Lulu's memories. Lulu actually knows a lot more about what's going on, but her memories have been hidden from her. So as this jogs her memory, she will tell them that there's actually a place that they could go to. There's an old hag that lives down right below where the city is, and if they go to the hag, perhaps this hag may help them. The more that she jogs her memory, the more she can remember about her past. Of course, the hag is Mad Mary, and we'll talk all about her in the next chapter, the Avernus chapter. Now, what I don't like about this connection here is that it's very vague, and all of the leads come from Lulu at this point. Ravengard doesn't necessarily have a plan per se, but anything that he tells the group is going to trigger the memories of Lulu. That's really the key here. Now, of course, there's a battle raging below between the forces of Zariel and the forces of the Abyss. That big battle that's still raging is probably still going on. If you'd like, they could stop and then continue to pull Avernus down. The only thing I don't like about this is I like to have time be ambiguous, so I basically said that battle is still raging, and then my characters had to decide how they were going to get down to Avernus and not only get down from this floating city, but avoid the big, huge combat that's down there because they don't want to have any part of that. Now, there are a lot of ways to get down, including climbing down the chains or getting will-o-wisps to help them, but really you could make up anything you want. My characters looked around the city and saw if was there any way that they could find some people in the city to help them get down, and I obliged, and I said that there was a artificer who could make them something. I've seen people online talk about maybe making like hot air balloons or something like that. So I made them hang gliders and they were able to glide down, and I had a little mini game where they're trying to avoid the battle, and that basically was fine enough. Getting out of Elturel and down to Avernus shouldn't be too challenging. They should just find a way to get down and avoid the combats, because otherwise it's going to get bogged down, and to be honest, if they're in a big battlefield, that's very hard to role play. That's very hard to put onto a battle mat. So best thing to do is just to have them kind of sneak their way down to the grounds of Avernus. So that's where we're going to stop today. That's the Grand Cemetery, both the chapel and the ossuary, and the sort of like the escaping the siege section. Chapter 3 is really the point where the game changes quite a bit. It's also, I think, most people's favorite chapter. So I'm going to really focus on that next, and we're going to have one video where we kind of lay out what the goals of Avernus are. So that's going to be the next video in the series, so stay tuned. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. You can hit the bell icon for notifications. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can head to the new Tabletop Bob merch store, which is down below in the description. Again, I'm really looking forward to getting to the next chapter, which is the Avernus chapter, and to finish this series for you all. I'll see you on the tabletop. Bye.